Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. 1 year ago today, this guy right here, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, got arrested. Got arrested. 1 year. Wow. Time flies, right? Time flies. 1 year already passed. Still no trial, though. Still no trial. But 1 year ago today, where were you at when Bryan Kohberger, they announced that he got arrested? I was inside my home covering this case, and then the news broke. They caught the guy. And he's from Pennsylvania. And I was shocked to the core because I thought a local would have done it. I thought maybe somebody around that university would have done it. But let me share a report because a media outlet actually went around Bryan Kohberger's Pennsylvania neighborhood where he got arrested and spoke to neighbors around there. Check it out.
A year after the Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger was arrested in their backyard. The 29-year-old is being charged in connection to the gruesome murder of 4 University of Idaho students back in November 2022. 2822's Amelia Sack joins us live in Chestnut Hill Township with more. Good evening, Amelia.
Gianna, good evening. Early in the morning on December 30th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was arrested from his parents' home just minutes behind me in the private community of Indian Mountain Lake. I spoke with residents from that community and some communities nearby who say that the quiet area turned chaotic that December day.
Yeah, the Mountain Lake isn't bad.
Vincent Senatori retired to his peaceful Indian Mountain Lake home several years ago. He says he remembers how he felt the day 29-year-old Bryan Kohberger was arrested.
And I was shocked to see his parents lived here.
He says he was also stunned by the nature of Kohberger's crimes.
Shocked, surprised that a guy would do something like that.
Kohberger was arrested that day by Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI. He was found with weapons inside of the home. Andrew Ungorian lives in a different community nearby. He says he can recall the area being filled with press and police.
It was interesting, kind of scary. Turned on the news and I saw that the guy was here.
Raheem Wilson lives a half a mile away from where the arrest was made. He and his family moved to the area from New York City for a change of pace.
But it just teaches you that no matter where you are, like, things happen. You never know who your neighbors are. So you got to treat everyone with kindness because the person next to you could literally be a psycho.
Now, the prosecution for the case filed a request for the trial to begin in 2024. It was set to begin this past October in 2023, but was postponed indefinitely after Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial. He remains in prison in the Latah County Jail in Moscow, Idaho. Reporting in Monroe County, Amelia Sack, 2822 News.
One thing I find very, very interesting about the Bryan Kohberger case is I haven't heard any neighbor to say anything good about him. I was in the area covering the case, as some of you may or may not know, and while I was there, I spoke to numerous people, and not one person, not one, said anything positive about him. It's always negative and stuff like that. I don't think he has any support out there whatsoever. But it's been 1 year. So what have we learned from 1 year of this Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case? Well, we still don't have a trial. We've heard the victims suffering. Bryan Kohberger making every excuse possible to delay the case. Remember, an innocent person, right, would want a speedy trial and try to get this over with so they can get their freedom. But Bryan Kohberger is doing the exact opposite. They're actually now trying to stay the proceedings where he doesn't have, stop the proceedings because he wants to appeal. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but there is actually a new hearing coming out at the end of January. But Mr. Kohberger himself, it happened 1 year ago, and I bet he thought he wasn't going to get caught, right? They were watching him. They were watching him towards the end of December. He was actually going out into neighbors' trash, and apparently when they arrested him, he had Ziploc bags and he had, had gloves on and was sorting through the trash. I wonder if his family actually knew that this was coming too. And what does his parents feel like 1 year later? Bryan Kohberger's parents still don't publicly support him. They haven't attended any hearings. They haven't made any statements proclaiming his innocence. They haven't said anything on social media about him being innocent. There's no one in the community around where Bryan Kohberger lived in Pullman or Pennsylvania that said he's innocent. No support whatsoever. He's like a lone wolf all alone on an island. And he's being defended at the taxpayer's expense by his own lawyers, who I feel know that he's guilty, but are just playing games with the courts or doing their so-called job because it's their job. But ethically, I don't think it's right. And even if you know the guy's guilty, play like he's not. I think that's morally wrong, and it kind of damages the victims. But we'll see what happens with this particular case. 1 year ago, time flies. Hopefully, the victims' families get a trial, and we don't have to, within the next year, right? They're trying to propose one in the summertime. I think Bryan Kohberger's defense is going to do numerous things to delay the process and make sure this drags out into 2025 or 2026, because ultimately you got to save the dude's life, right? And by delaying this, his life is being saved. But one day, ladies and gentlemen, he will be going to trial. If he's alive, you know, and there's a lot of unanswered questions about, you know, if the proceedings get stayed because of his mental state, or if he does something to himself. I'm not saying I want him to do something to himself, harm to himself, but he could do it. He could not accept responsibility and do some harm to himself. Also, pro se, I think he might be a little bit irritated with his attorneys, because his attorneys take loss after loss after loss after loss. I don't think the stay of the proceedings, Judge is going to stay the proceedings, but he's going to try. Lawyers going to try, because they're making $200 an hour each of them, $605 total, the defense team, at the Idaho taxpayers' expense. Of course, Ann Taylor is going to do everything she can do to drag it out, because she has a financial gain in this matter. Covering the Bryan Kohberger case, let me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. Where were you when Bryan Kohberger got arrested? What's your thoughts on 1 year later after this case? Is he the guy, or do you feel like he's innocent? And if he's innocent, why do you feel Bryan Kohberger's innocent? And if he's guilty, why do you feel like Bryan Kohberger's guilty? I'll be reading your comments. We will talk soon. JLR Investigates, always covering the Bryan Kohberger case 24/7, 365. Check out the playlist. Over 900 videos about this case. The ins and outs. We talk about what's going on. So let me know your thoughts. We will talk soon. Stay tuned.